a nervous girl walks into the clinic, only to realize the man about to examine her is a young millionaire she once rejected. "Dr. Rhodes, your next patient is in room 2, the nurse said briskly, glancing down at her tablet. "She seems a little nervous." Damien slipped on a pair of latex gloves, not looking up. "Name? Olivia." His hands paused mid-motion. A slow breath escaped him, but his heart began to hammer in his chest. "Olivia." His voice came out low, almost disbelieving. "Yes. Early 20s, first-time patient. Intake form says mild abdominal pain. Do you know her?" He did not answer. Instead, he finished adjusting his gloves, gave a sharp nod, and walked down the corridor, his polished shoes echoing against the sterile tile floor. Each step toward room 2 felt heavier, the name repeated in his mind like a drumbeat. Olivia Tran. He had not heard that name spoken aloud in years. Not since that night on the campus steps under the rain, when she had looked at him with those wide eyes and said no. He pushed open the door. Inside, Olivia sat on the edge of the examination table, her shoulders hunched, fingers tightly clutched around the strap of her canvas bag. She was staring at the floor, legs swinging slightly above it, as if hoping the movement would distract her from her nerves. Her hair was longer than he remembered, darker too, pulled back into a loose ponytail. She wore no makeup, just a dusting of worry across her features. The door clicked shut behind him. She looked up, her eyes widened. He stopped mid-step. "Olivia," he said, before he could stop himself. She blinked. Then her lips parted. "No, it can't be." Her voice was barely above a whisper. He cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "Hello, Miss Tran. I'm Dr. Damien Rhodes. I'll be handling your consultation today." A flicker of disbelief crossed her face, followed by something else. Discomfort, maybe even panic. She stood abruptly. I think there's been a mistake. I didn't know. I didn't expect. I assure you, I'm a licensed physician and more than qualified to examine you," Damien said evenly, but the edge in his voice betrayed his calm tone. "If you're uncomfortable, I can request a referral to another doctor, but we're currently short-staffed, so there may be a delay." She hesitated, eyes flicking to the door, then back to him. "No, it's fine," she said softly. "I just wasn't prepared." Neither of us were, he thought. He motioned to the table. "You can sit. Let's go over your symptoms." Olivia perched back on the table, still clutching her bag like a life raft. She could not look at him, and he tried not to stare, but her presence was overwhelming. So many memories flooded him. Late-night study sessions, quiet glances across the library. That one time she laughed so hard she snorted and turned beet red, and of course, the night she told him goodbye. "What brings you in today?" he asked, grabbing a clipboard. She exhaled slowly. "I've been having stomach pain, not constant, sharp sometimes. Lower left side." He nodded, scribbling notes. "How long has it been happening?" "A few weeks. I thought it would go away. It didn't." "Any fever? Nausea?" "Some nausea, no fever." He glanced up. "May I?" She nodded without speaking, as he stepped forward to examine her. The air between them thickened. His hands moved with practiced precision, but inwardly he was trembling. She was here. She was real. And she looked just as beautiful as he remembered, if not more. "Does it hurt here?" he asked, pressing gently. She flinched. "A little." He moved to the next area. "Here." She shook her head. A long moment passed before he stepped back and peeled off his gloves. "It's likely mild gastritis," he said, "but I'll run some labs to be sure. Nothing urgent." She nodded again. He reached for the clipboard, but paused before turning away. "I didn't expect to see you here." She looked up finally, meeting his eyes. Her voice was low. "Neither did I. I thought you left the city." "I did. Back last year, He waited, but she offered nothing more. He nodded slowly. "You'll get a call about your results in a few days. In the meantime, I'll write you a prescription." He turned toward the counter, scribbled a few notes, then paused. "You look well," he said, without turning around. She did not reply. When he handed her the paper, their fingers brushed. She pulled her hand away quickly. "Thank you," she said, clutching the slip like another shield. Damien opened the door for her. She walked past him, head down, footsteps quick. As she reached the hallway, he called softly, "Still not good enough, huh, Olivia?" She stopped. Her back stiffened, but she did not turn around. She walked away without a word, and Damien stood there, alone in the doorway, wondering why her silence hurt more than her rejection ever did. Olivia sat in the reception area, her fingers curling and uncurling in her lap, as the dull tick of the wall clock to the clinic reluctantly, heart pounding, fully prepared to ask for a different physician. The encounter with Damien had unraveled her carefully kept composure, stirred feelings she thought long buried. She told herself it would be easier to explain to the receptionist that she simply preferred someone else. No need for awkwardness, no need for history resurfacing. But when she finally stood at the front desk, clutching her purse tightly, her voice barely above a whisper, the receptionist had offered a kind but apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, Miss Tran. Dr. Rhodes is currently the only internal medicine specialist available this week, unless you'd prefer to wait 2 or 3 more weeks for the next appointment." Olivia had paused. 3 weeks was too long to ignore her symptoms. But still, she hesitated, her heart thudding like a warning. She gave a silent nod, too embarrassed to explain why she wanted to switch. She could not bring herself to say, "I once broke that man's heart," or, "I'm afraid he still lives in mine." Now, once again, she found herself seated in room 2, the air colder than she remembered, her skin prickling with nerves, her eyes locked onto the anatomy poster on the wall. Something about the digestive system, though her brain refused to absorb a single word. The door opened. She did not look up. "Good afternoon," came his voice, low, even, clipped in that professional cadence that doctors use when they are keeping their emotions tightly in check. She swallowed hard. "Let's continue from where we left off." She nodded once, still not meeting his eyes. Damien moved with quiet efficiency, asking about her pain, the frequency of the symptoms, her diet, any new stressors. His tone was calm, rehearsed, but there was something about the way he avoided her gaze too, the way his hands hesitated ever so slightly before each step of the exam that made her chest tighten. He checked her vitals, placed the stethoscope gently against her back, asked her to. Deeply. She did. Inhale, exhale, but with every breath, her mind drifted backward, back to the quiet courtyard behind the university library, where the old lamppost cast a soft circle of light. Damien had waited for her there, nervously shifting his weight from foot to foot, wearing the coat she always liked, the charcoal one with the worn sleeves and faint smell of cedar. "I like you, Olivia," he had said, voice low, sincere, hopeful. "I have for a while." She remembered the way her heart clenched, how badly she had wanted to say it back, but all she could manage was a shake of her head. "I can't." He had not begged, he had not questioned, he had only stepped back, eyes shadowed with something unspoken, and nodded. Then he turned and walked away. She had cried the whole way home. He had buried himself in ambition, imperfection, in everything that did not feel like loss. Now here they were again. They stood there, 2 people holding the remnants of a past too fragile to name. The silence between them felt like glass, beautiful, dangerous, and too easy to shatter. Then she turned, opened the door, and walked out. Damien remained where he was, unmoving, watching the space she had left behind. Outside, Olivia didn't stop until she was halfway down the street. Then, with trembling fingers, she wiped a tear before it could fall, quickening her pace as the city swallowed her whole. Rain fell in steady sheets against the clinic windows as Olivia stepped inside, her coat soaked and hair clinging damply to her face. She was 20 minutes late for her follow-up, her heart pounding from the sprint and the awkwardness of being late to see the one man she had tried to avoid. The receptionist greeted her with a gentle smile. "Dr. Rhodes is ready. He said to send you in when you arrived." Olivia nodded, breathless, and made her way down the now familiar corridor to room 2. She hesitated, door steeling herself. When she entered, Damien looked up from his notes. "You're late," he said evenly, but not unkindly. "Sorry, the subway stalled and then I forgot my umbrella." Without a word, he crossed the room, opened a drawer, and pulled out a clean towel. He handed it to her without fanfare. She blinked. "Thanks." He gestured toward the chair. "Sit. I made some tea, too. Figure the weather might slow you down." On the counter behind him sat a ceramic mug, steam curling from its rim. Olivia sat slowly, the warmth of the towel surprising her as much as the softness in Damien's voice. The exam was routine, her vitals were better, the symptoms had subsided, but the air between them had changed, less tense, more familiar. Over the next few weeks, Olivia returned twice more. Each time Damien remained professional, but the edges of their conversation blurred into something more human. He shared a funny moment with a pediatric patient, mentioned the cafe near his building that served coffee but great music. She responded cautiously at first, then with growing ease. Damien never pushed, but Olivia could feel him trying to bridge something unspoken, and in a way that surprised her, she began to meet him halfway. One morning over coffee at her bookstore job, Olivia's best friend Hannah leaned across the counter and raised an eyebrow. "So you've been seeing Dr. Damien Rhodes again?" Olivia rolled her eyes. "Medically, yes, medically. That man could be on the cover of any magazine in this city, and he was totally into you in college." "He was," Olivia said quietly, "and I turned him down." "Yeah, you rejected a man who literally made the pre-med girls cry when he walked by. What's your excuse now?" Olivia hesitated. "He's not the same. People change," Hannah said. "Maybe you did too." The thought lingered in Olivia's mind as she simply left the room, leaving behind the scent of rain and something tender blooming in the silence. The rain had cleared, but a gray stillness lingered over the city as Olivia sat curled on the worn sofa in her apartment. A steaming mug of tea rested in her hands, untouched. Across from her, Hannah watched her quietly, her fingers wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug of her own. "You've been quiet all night," Hannah said gently. "More than usual, I mean." Olivia gave a half-hearted smile. "I've just been thinking." "About him?" Hannah asked, though they both knew the answer. "I told him I liked him," Olivia said softly, "and then I ran away." Hannah blinked. "Wait, you what?" "I said it. Then I left before he could say anything." Classic Olivia move. Hannah leaned forward. "Why did you say no back then?" "I never really asked." Olivia looked down into her tea. "Because I didn't think I deserved him. My dad had just left. My mom was getting worse every week, and I had to drop out of the pre." The next afternoon, Olivia arrived for a routine follow-up. Her skin looked pale, her steps slower. Damien noticed immediately. "You look exhausted," he said. Concerned, "I'm fine," she replied, waving a hand. "Just didn't sleep much." He nodded, but his frown lingered. Midway through the exam, her answers started to slur slightly. She blinked a few times, then swayed. "Olivia, Damien stepped forward. She collapsed before he could catch her. His reflexes kicked in. In one swift motion, he scooped her into his arms and rushed her into the staff break room, laying her gently on the small couch. A nurse appeared, but Damien waved her off. "I've got this." He checked her pulse, her vitals. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Gently, he pressed a cool cloth to her forehead and stayed by her side until she stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. "What happened?" "You fainted," he said softly. "From exhaustion, low blood sugar. You've been pushing yourself too hard." She blinked. Still dazed, "I'm sorry." Beneath her eyes had faded slightly, and there was a subtle glow to her skin as if she had begun to reclaim pieces of herself. She still looked tired, yes, but the exhaustion no longer felt like it was swallowing her whole. Instead, she looked like someone who had started to breathe again. Damien noticed immediately. He studied her for a beat longer than necessary when she stepped into the room, and for the first time since their awkward reunion, he smiled without hesitation. After her checkup, he handed her a printed list of recommendations and paused before speaking. "You're doing better," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I'm trying," Olivia replied, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. There was a short silence between them. Neither of them moved to end the moment. Then Damien cleared his throat, shifting slightly. "Would you want to go for a walk with me? There's a park nearby, just 20 minutes. Nothing formal." Olivia blinked, surprised. "You mean now?" He looked nervous, his posture unusually tentative, "unless you have other plans." She looked down at her shoes, heart thudding, and then back up into his eyes. "No, I'd like that." The walk started in silence, but not the uncomfortable kind. It was the kind of quiet that felt natural, like the pause before a deep breath. The sun hung low in the sky, casting everything in soft amber light. The sidewalk still held the warmth of the day, and the rustling trees whispered secrets above them as the city noise gradually faded into the background. As they reached the riverside park, Damien pointed to a bench beneath a wide maple tree, with branches that hung like arms offering shelter. "Sit with me?" She nodded, and they took their seats side by side. A conversation began lightly. Shared memories of college days, professors who terrified them, and the dreadful campus coffee that somehow still tasted better than anything else. Damien told her stories from his hospital rotations, some sobering, other absurd. They had both laughing and disbelief. Olivia opened up about her job at the bookstore, how she still devoured medical journals late at night, and how sometimes, just for herself, she quizzed her knowledge as if preparing for exams she might never take. "You never really left medicine," Damien said with a smile, glancing sideways at her. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "I wonder if it left me." He looked at her for a long moment, the breeze lifting strands of her hair. "I don't think it ever did. It just waited for you to come back." They continued walking after that, letting their words unfold with gentle honesty. Over the next few weeks, these walks became something of a ritual. Sometimes they added coffee, sometimes just the stroll, but every time, something between them softened, deepened. The distance that had once felt unbridgeable slowly gave way to something fragile but growing. Olivia found herself smiling more. She caught herself looking forward to his texts. Her chest. Gently placing his hands on her shoulders, his voice was quiet but steady. "You're not a burden, Olivia. You're not something I have to carry. You're someone I want to walk beside." Her throat tightened. "You were the person's